Hey everyone, hello. It's nice to be back working with the Team Akaditi team. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a pity that thanks to COVID, we're not able to be physically in Nigeria because I was looking forward to that. I think it's one of the few West African countries I've not been to because I've been to quite a number of them. But then, hey, COVID will go and we would hopefully have the opportunity to do just that in the future. So today, I wanted to talk about emotional intelligence or EI and team performance because it's one of these topics that I am quite passionate about, and I'll try my best to interlace it with my experience working so far in the Scrum and Agile space. I'd just like to ask everyone to kindly go on mute. If you have any questions, do note them down and I would answer them at the end of the session because sadly, if you're going through the flow and you get diverted, it's a bit difficult to come back to what you were saying. Okay, thank you. So today we'll be covering what emotional intelligence is. Then I'll take you through the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. We'll then talk about emotional intelligence and team performance, 7 ways to create an EI team, EI and Scrum values, and we would end there. So from now, I'm just going to call it EI because emotional intelligence is quite a mouthful. So we'll start off with talking about what EI is. You know, for example, if one sits down and at times you want to think about who a perfect leader is, you think of someone who maybe sort of whose temper is always under control. They manage their temper well. They have the complete trust of the people they work with. You know, they listen to their teams. You know, they're easily approachable. They're easy to talk to. And mainly that is because such individuals tend to have quite a high EI. So I guess the first question that comes to mind then is, what is EI? It is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and those of people around you. So people with a high degree of EI know what they're feeling, what their emotions mean, and how these emotions can affect other people. So one of the interesting things to note is there are 5 main elements of EI, and at least 90% of top performers have a very high EI score. And simply put, they are social and emotional skills and strengths that enable you to be successful both personally and professionally. These are one of the kind of skills that one is easily, it's good to have such skill sets if you are a leader. It's good for your career progression. And what is really good to note about that as well is the fact that one may not have all the skills, but it's something that can be learned. And it really is something that I would recommend, especially in the Agile space, in environments where we work with people and we interact with people, and that tends to be almost every role you do, right? So I'll just move on to talk about the 5 main elements of EI, and so I'll just start from left to right. Okay, my cursor is there, so I'll be moving my cursor so you know where exactly I am. We'll start off with the first one, which is about, oops, I think that was too fast. Okay. My mouth is in a hurry more than I am. So the first one is self-awareness, which is the ability to recognize and understand your moods, your emotions and drives, as well as how they affect other people. So it's just telling you of being aware of the way you behave, you know, and this is very important. For example, as an individual, when we get angry, being able to understand that, oh, I've gotten to that point. You know, there's that point you get through before you lose it. So being able to be aware that this is that point where I lose it, and then I'll start saying really crazy things that maybe later on, after that emotion has passed, you would actually be embarrassed of what you've said. It happens to all of us. And, I am one of the people that believe that words have a lot of power. So sometimes, for example, when you get really angry, you would say really nasty things. Some people are like that. So being self-aware, especially in a work environment, of what your trigger points are is very important. People that tend to do that tend to have a lot of self-confidence. They have a realistic self-assessment of themselves. They have a self-depreciating sense of humor. And some of the things you need to know is that how you're able to sort of be self-aware of who you are is maybe keeping a journal. Because, sometimes if you keep a journal on your day-to-day basis, you'll be able, when you go back to read it, you'll be able to sort of read and see where your trigger points are. And also, one of the things, simple as it may sound, one of the other things is to just pause and think. I think someone's mic is really interfering, and if that person could be on mute, that would be lovely. Thank you. The next thing is self-regulation. That's the ability to control or redirect disruptive impulses and moods, the propensity to suspend judgment, to think before acting. Self-awareness and self-regulation tends to go hand in hand, in my opinion, because with that one as well, it's also dealing with emotional control and being able to stay calm at all times. People like that tend to, the hallmarks for that is trustworthiness and integrity, comfort with ambiguity, being open to change. Tips for that is that, for example, when you make mistakes, just own up to it. Don't blame others for that. Know your values. If you know your values and you know what you stand for, you know what you wouldn't budge on, and you wouldn't lose sleep over that. Also, another good thing is practice being calm. For example, if you get into a situation that you think is getting out of hand, sometimes it's just better to just walk away. As difficult as it may sound, it's not every battle you need to win. Choose your battles wisely, especially in a corporate environment. I think those are the tips I'd give for self-regulation. Motivation, being passionate is a passion to work for reasons that go beyond money or status. It's a propensity to pursue goals with energy and persistence. Motivation is very important when you want to achieve your goals. Especially if you're a leader, it's not only about motivating yourself, but it's also motivating your team as well to achieve the goals they have to achieve. You also need to always be mindful or remember the reason why you did your role or your job, what you enjoy about it, and that kind of thing. Hallmarks of that is having a strong drive to achieve, optimism even in the face of failure, organizational commitment. Basically, just having a positive twist to everything you do. For example, for those of us in the Agile space, we would always say that failure is good. I lecture at the university, and when you go and you tell the kids that failure is good, they all look at you like you've lost a few screws up there. And I always like to add to that by saying that it's not the failure itself that you should be concentrating on, but it's the lesson learned, and then moving forward, how you would change that. So these are the kind of things I mean by being optimistic at all times, because trust me, if you're negative and if you run teams and you come in the morning with your team and you're actually negative and you have a negative outlook, it impacts the whole team. So as a leader, it's very important that one, you're motivated to do your own work, to set your own personal goals, but two, that you motivate the team you're leading to carry them on this journey, whatever that would be. The next thing we will talk about is empathy. For me, I think empathy is big. It's one of the biggest ones you have to have in EI, as far as I'm concerned. It's the ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people. It's the skill in treating people according to their emotional reactions. And this is very important when dealing with other individuals and working in any environment, because when it's like that, people that tend to be like that tend to understand people from their perspectives. You know, some of the tips I would give are being able to put yourself in other people's shoes. You know, if someone gives you a reason, or someone, you don't necessarily have to always be right. People, because we're different, will have a different view or outlook to a particular situation. And sometimes these different outlook and views also help when solving an issue. So always look at something from someone's perspective. If someone is telling you something that is contrary to what you believe, always think, why is the person saying that or telling me this? You know, another important thing in this particular with empathy is reading body language and being attentive to the way people communicate. You know, communication is not just speaking, to be honest. There's a lot of different other forms of communication. So one thing I always recommend to people, especially people who want to lead, is study the various types of communication. Because, you know, for example, if someone is talking to you and they just can't stare you in the eye, then you wonder if what they're saying is the truth or not, you know, that kind of thing. So it's very important that you read body language. Also, another tip is to understand how others are feeling, so that you'll be able to work with them better. Hallmarks of this particular trait is expertise in building and retaining talent. Another interesting one is cross-cultural sensitivity. Cross-cultural sensitivity, especially in this day and age we work in, is a very important thing. Simple example, for example, for even me myself, going to Ghana for the first time and seeing a lot of people, you know, walking, like men who were friends walking, holding hands, women who were friends walking, holding hands. And I was thinking, oh, we have a lot of, you know, the LGBT community is quite big in Ghana then, it seems. And I was saying that to someone. I said, because I see a lot of people holding. They said, no, they're just friends. You're like, oh, okay. So, you know, that kind of thing. Or, for example, going to you know, like for those of us who've grown up in the West, there's a lot of personal space you have, so you don't want people to come very close to you, or else you start feeling a bit claustrophobic almost, and you come, and at times people want to come talk to you very close, huddle next to you, and, you know, having to deal with that. Or, for example, even in the workspace, I remember earlier on when I started dealing with teams in India, and you call and they just pick the phone and the first thing they'll tell you is, yes, tell me. And I used to feel so offended about it, and later I realized that's the way they talk. It's, you know, they're not being abrasive, they're not being rude, and that kind of thing. I think I've belabored the point a little bit too long. And another interesting one is service to clients and customers as well. So with empathy, it's very important, especially if you have customer-facing roles where you have to deal with clients and they're bringing in complaints, not to go challenge the clients, for example, because I've seen that happen in interesting scenarios, and that should not be the norm. I'd move to the last one, which is social skills. And with that one, it's proficiency in managing relationships and building networks. It's an ability to find common ground and build rapport. Now, for that one, social skills is also a big one that as a leader, one needs to continuously develop this particular skill. People that have this particular skill tend to be good communicators. They tend to be able to effectively manage change. Another big thing with that one is being able to resolve conflicts diplomatically. So the hallmarks of that, which I've already stated: effectiveness in leading change, persuasiveness, expertise in building in building and leading teams. So with that one, the tips I would give to enhance that particular skill is to learn to conflict resolution. Also, as a leader, another good thing with that one is to learn to acknowledge good work that has been done by team members. For this particular page, the only other thing I would like to add to that is these 5 elements of EI actually help you to lead, to perform better. It helps you to effectively relate to members at work, and it really deals with, in the bottom line, it really deals with one's attitude towards work and towards each other, your relationships with people, being aware of yourself and how you come across, and basically self-management. And this is something that with time and practice would actually help one be effective in their role. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide where we'll talk about EI and team performance. So with EI and team performance, it helps with group collaboration and creating the right environment for people to work, creating the right group dynamics, sort of like personal connection for purpose, cultural, emotional connection, behavior. And one thing that one should understand, that when it comes to creating these in the team dynamics, it is not an easy thing to do, I must reiterate, because sometimes these things come across as very simplistic, but as long as we're dealing with human beings who happen, and we all know we are all complex in our right, we need to understand that it is not an easy thing to inculcate in an environment and in a culture, but it is something that helps to create high-performing teams, and that it takes time. So one of the things you need to think about is the motivations as a team leader of each person on a team to contribute to the team dynamic. So with that one, you're talking about influencing patterns of the way people think, how they react to each other, how, you know, you also need to, if you have a team, you also need to understand each individual you have in the team. And in so doing, it's important that you know what motivates each person you have within your team. In so doing, you're able to create the right environment where each team member actually contributes to ensure growth and ensure that the common goal of the organization is achieved. And you also need to ensure that each person will naturally contribute their strengths for the betterment of the team. Because if you have a team, you have different individuals within the team, you need to understand what they're good at, how best they like to work in a team. You know, like, for example, you may have some people who are a stickler for detail. They would want more attention to detail, so you give them tasks that relates to that. You have some people who may not talk a lot more, but then they have the way they work. So being able to understand how person A and person B works is always good to be able to create the right environment and get the best out of them to deliver. It's also important to to develop interpersonal and interpersonal skills, intra and interpersonal skills within the team. You need to create the right environments where team members can work with each other peaceably. It's a place that you need to create an environment where the team members feel comfortable to work with, where there are there are bound to be conflicts if you work in a team because we're individuals, but you need to create the environment as a leader where these conflicts are nipped in the bud, they're dealt with, they're handled immediately, not something that is swept under the carpet. Because trust me, if you notice that there's something that could lead to a big conflict and you don't deal with it at the earliest stages, it would explode. And sometimes if you had dealt with that earlier, it will just die everything down and everything would go on as normal. But if you leave it and ignore it, it would explode and at times spoil all the team dynamics that you've created, worked hard for. All of a sudden, the worst thing you would want is having a team where this is supporting person A and that is supporting person B. I think even we had, I think I'm going to give my age here when I say I remember there was a time when the Black Stars of Ghana, football, we all love it when it comes to World Cup. There was a time when we had team members who one person thought he should have been the captain as opposed to the other. And you had team members not siding with one person as opposed to the other. That means that even when they're passing the ball, they would not pass the ball to someone who supported the other side. In so doing, you have spoiled productivity, you have spoiled everything. Now, if in the beginning, if the coach had just picked these two people, talked to them and dealt with it from the get-go, that would have sorted the situation straight away. Also, ensure that you assess situation from the point of views of others. This keeps coming up over and over again. I think that is because in most times when we work with people, if the person does not accept things from your perspective and from your view, at times you come across leadership that gets quite upset with such people, especially if you're deemed to be a troublemaker or very vociferous. But you actually need to listen to people and to listen to why their view is different and understand it, because in so you as an individual also learns a lot. And in so doing, when you do all these things, then you create an environment where there's trust. People feel like they can be free and talk and be happy, because if you have a happy environment, you'd have people who would deliver because they feel comfortable in the environment within which they work. Okay, so let's move to the next one. This is, we're just going to talk here about the 7 ways or steps to create an EI team. With these 7 steps, I believe that if you go through it, you're on your way to a winner. So the first step at the top is having a ringleader. So, like I said earlier, it's not easy to create the right environment where there's trust, there's a sense of group identity, there's this sense of, we're building, together we stand, together we fall, that kind of thing. That's the right environment you want to create. But it starts with you yourself, you the ringleader. You always, there's a famous quote that a lot of people in the change space always talk about from Gandhi, I believe, which says that you have to be the change you want to see. If you as a leader want everyone to be at work at 9 o'clock and you waltz into work at midday, hello, they're also going to do the same. Because I for one, always feel like if you go into an environment and you see the way people behave, it tends invariably in most instances to be a depiction of you, the leader yourself. So as the ringleader, you need to start off by working on yourselves you need to go through all the different steps I highlighted in the previous slide with regards to EI, like self-awareness, emotional management, effective communication, social awareness, conflict resolution. You need to be the kind of leader that is respected by the team. You need to create let them know that you are there for them. You've got the back of your team members, if I may say so. Be polite and be respectful to your team members. Show willingness to change. Listen, and listening is such an important thing. It's not the kind of listen when someone is talking to you and you're like, yeah, okay, and you're on your laptop sending an email away or sending a text message. No, put everything down. Sit down, make time for whoever is in your team that has sought you out and listen to them, because it's very important that the team members know that you are their ringleader. When there are mistakes that you made, just go out and say, I messed up, guys. There's so much power in doing that, So always do that. Always be helpful. Always be there for them. Right, I'll move on to the next one, which is identifying the team's members' strengths and weaknesses. It's not only about just getting different individuals. I'm sure that all the members in the team have been hired because they have their unique strengths and weakness, their unique strengths and talents that you think is best for the team. But then everyone has what they're good at. So sometimes it's good to know each individual beyond the workspace, So you also know what they're passionate at. You also know what they enjoy doing. Bring those strengths out. Also, look at, in every team you have the quieter ones. Don't leave them on this journey. All galvanize them. Encourage people, people who are stronger technically, for example. Encourage them to pair up with those that are not as strong in a particular topic or area, so that they can pass on the knowledge. For some of the teams in some environments I've worked, for Fridays, for example, we have brown bag sessions where team members would come and teach other team members within the team a different topic, encourage innovation, that kind of thing. And also when people are doing work, let them do the bits they're good at, at the same time honing the skill sets of the areas they're not so good at, so that you can have a well-rounded team. The next thing would be to spark passion within the team. It's not only about getting the right team, but it's also about getting the right individuals that fit into your company culture, that fits into your organization, that are in line with your goals, your vision, that are passionate about it, so they can work as well to achieve that. So it's very important to note that as a leader when picking people for your team. At times, passions will dip, sometimes, life happens and it gets too much. As a team leader, always try to ensure that you notice that and get ways for people to re-engage, to sort of reignite their first love, if I may say so. Even for those that are married for 1,000 years, with time they have to work at the relationship for it to work. It's the same thing. I'm using practical examples so people can know that it's doable. Also, another good thing is always recognizing people for their accomplishments and the good work they've done. Also, creating a flexible working environment, especially, for example, now we have a situation where all of us are working from home. So, but then normally creating that flexibility is always important to ensure that the passion is there and the like. Yeah, I think that covers that much for sparking passion. And then we'll talk about building team norms. With building team norms, it's always good, even if you had a team, to create an environment where the team members come together. I always recommend, if possible, that team members come together and they create their own norms and create, they state, this is how we would plan to work together as a team, right? And another thing that is good is always saying thank you, creating the right harmony, ensure that there's lack of tension, creating an environment where team members like each other, because, well, especially in the, I'd refer to that as the old world, because I think the way we've done work so far is going to change. But in environments where we always see each other every day, it's very important that the environment is not full of tension, and that team members are working as a unit, you know. And in so doing, because I also feel like if the team members have created their own norms themselves, then they would commit to fulfilling these norms, because it's a form of self-governance, if you ask me. And in so doing, you know, when you see the respect amongst each other, then there's a lot of banter and the like, and people know how not to go about crossing the line, then I think you've done well in that instance. Another big thing is developing creative ways to manage stress. Stress is bound to happen, but then as a leader, for example, you need to see that's coming your way and coming up with ways to handle and deal with the stress, because if stress is not handled properly, it can even lead to health issues and having individuals being burnt out. So one of the ways you can deal with that, for example, is how you handle deadlines. For example, if you have projects you're planning, when you plan a project, create a buffer on the timeline. By buffer, I mean, if you think that the development is going to take 2 weeks, then make it 2 weeks and a day or two, just for any eventuality, because you don't want the individuals working on the project to be stressed towards the end. That tends to happen a lot. Another big thing, which I always keep talking about, is handling grievances, trying to deal with schedules. Also, encourage team members to take breaks. It's saddening at times you go into some organizations and you notice that the team members are under so much pressure that they're having their lunch at their desk. So encourage team members to take breaks, to go out for a walk, to get some fresh air, you know, it helps you to really recharge your energies and come back to do your work. Discourage multitasking. A lot of people think that multitasking will get to more work done, but in reality, it worsens the situation. At times, it leads to people having to go back to redo the work, or you're not getting the right work, that the right results and the right quality you want of a particular job. So try not to get any rushed job as well. Be empathetic. This, I cannot say that enough. For example, if you have team members and you notice that, for example, someone is not behaving like the way they ought to, go and find out what is wrong, you know. For example, I had another instance where I had a team member who used to be quite a calm guy, and all of a sudden was coming to work, and just the slightest thing, the guy will start shouting, you know, and straight away I noticed, oh, there's something not right here. So just pulled him aside saying, oh, let's go for a walk. We had a chat, and it turns out he's going through a divorce. Now, with that level of stress, he's coming to work and he's shouting at everyone because he's going through a lot of drama at home, you know. So always be able to watch out when people are not behaving the way they normally do. There may be a problem there. Try to find out what the issue is and find innovative ways. Ask the person, How can we do to help? Do you need time away from work? Do you need this? So in so doing, because these things, it's just like having a rotten apple in a box full of fresh ones. It's going to contaminate all the other ones if you don't take it out. So stress is a very important thing that you need to deal with. Another one is allowing team members to have a voice. Let your team members speak up. Let them speak their concerns. Teach your team members to communicate effectively. It should not be aggression. It should not be a fight. It should not be that I need to be very loud for my voice to be heard. Let them do that. Let them talk to you. Let their voice be heard. At times, when you have team members, especially in teams that relates directly with customers and end users, they at times come up with amazing, innovative solutions that as a business you may not have even thought about. So let them pitch these ideas. If you're working in an agile space, this is where another great thing that the retrospective is for. Let them talk about ways we can improve, but let them have a voice. And not only having a voice, let them know that their voice and their opinion matters. It makes a whole lot of difference when someone knows that I can go and say so, and it's not going to come up at the end of the year when there's time for reviews and for a pay rise. It wouldn't be used negatively against me, because some environments do that. In so doing, if you try to go down that route, you may be losing a good employee, or very good ideas will be lost because you didn't listen. Another important thing is encourage employees to work and play together. For me, I've always deemed that to be very important. Well, nowadays, I don't know how that's going to change, although now we've been doing virtual drinks online, which is equally interesting. But the important thing is that we spend so much time working, so many hours, that it's important that the team gets the time to play as well. Previously, for some of the teams I have worked with, for example, at the end of a project, we would go bowling, we would go, a catering class where we cook, that kind of thing. Sometimes going to eat out. There was a startup I worked with, and once a month they will do, the guys will do a gaming night. Sadly, I was the only girl in the whole company, and I don't do computer games, but hey, I was happy to arrange it, everything, get all the drinks and everything they needed. And they would spend the whole night, Friday night till Saturday morning. I hear they will spend it doing their FIFA, their racing, whatever. But what tends to happen is, because they bond at that level, you notice coming back to work on Monday that there's this banter, they relate to each other better. They handle tensions better because they've played together. So it's a very important aspect. And sometimes in so doing, you hear beautiful things about people that you wouldn't know, someone who's traveled the world, someone who maybe spends time for charity, that kind of thing. So you actually see the person, because seeing the person always out of work helps when you come back to work, because you just don't see them as person A with employee ID XYZ, but instead you see the person as maybe Peter, father of two. Peter likes to go mountain climbing, so you can talk to Peter about mountain climbing and everything, because then you can relate to them at a personal level. So it's not just about work, because the person needs to feel like they matter. And I think for me with EI, one of the biggest things is just making team members feel like they matter, because as individuals, when we feel like we matter, we perform better. Oh, that should be a quote I should copyright. Okay, so since we're agile, I always want to link this with Scrum values, because we shouldn't think that this is really far from us. I've seen and I've mentored some amazing Scrum Masters, and one of the reasons why they've been good at it has been because of their high EI score, because of the empathy they have towards their team members, because of the way they feel and want to do everything to ensure that their team members are well. So for me, when I look at the Scrum values, it just screams EI to me, but maybe I'm just a crazy Agile lady. So when we talk about courage, that is just talking about Scrum team members having the courage to do the right thing, having the courage to work on tough problems, but also having the courage to speak what they think. When we look at focus, it's everyone focusing on the work of the sprint, and they're focused on the goals of the Scrum team because they committed to the goals themselves. They are motivated to deliver these goals. Commitment, people personally committing to achieve the goals of the Scrum team, because there's nothing worse than having people not committed to the work they're doing. You would not get the results you want. So being able to commit to that is very important. Respect is one of the biggest things as far as I am concerned, because when it comes to respect, Scrum team members need to respect each other to be capable and independent people. It's not only about seeing someone and calling the person Mr. A and Mr. B. No, respect. It's one of those things that are so difficult to achieve, but they're so easy to lose. Treat people with respect. It's so beautiful when you go into organizations and you see leaders making time to speak to people in the canteen, to the cleaners and everything. In so doing, they have respect. There was, I think there was a video I saw on the news once when I think it was the Dutch Prime Minister or so, who was walking around. He spilled his coffee. He took the mop himself. He mopped it despite the fact that the cleaning lady wanted to do it. In so doing, the respect he showed to that person and the respect he earned was just phenomenal, because everyone was talking about it and everyone was talking about how amazing a leader he is. So this is very important that we bring that across. We give it and we receive it as well. If you want it, you have to give it. Respect to me also means that when I'm angry, I don't shout at another person. That person at work may be working in my team and I may be the manager, but at home this person is a leader in society. This person is someone's father or someone's mother who talks to them with respect. So let's bear that in mind when we're dealing with people. Openness, being open. So the Scrum team and its stakeholders agree to be open about all the work and challenges with performing the work. If you're open, I think that it's freeing even to be open, because when you're open, you just say the issues as they are. And if you, in so doing, most of the time, you actually get your issues resolved quicker than you would envisage. One of the projects I even worked on, I had an impediments board. It was quite a new project, right in the middle of the room, because you opened the door, the first thing you saw was the impediments board, because I had all the senior stakeholders coming and they'll look and say, oh, who do you need to fix it? And it's fixed. So being open is another good one. I'd end here by saying that in order to be successful in an agile environment, one's EI must be very high. And with that, I come to the end of this session. Thank you, everyone, for making time to listen to me. I'm going to stop presenting my screen. And then if you have any questions, I will.
Thank you very much, Louisa. Thank you very much. Please, are there any questions for our wonderful presenter? I can see something in the chat.
Thank you, Martin. You're always a star. I enjoyed yours as well. Old world Nana.
Any questions? You can put in the chat or raise your hands. Louisa, you can also share your LinkedIn link so that people can connect with you too.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, so there's a new message. So people are just thanking you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. I hope it helps you in your day-to-day life and with whatever teams you're managing as well. You can also, I put in my LinkedIn connection, you can also reach out to me if you had any questions. Yeah.
Okay.